Hey friends, this is the Meme Team podcast, where we talk about the logic behind virality, because marketing isn't just logic, it's culture. And our podcast decodes both.
Welcome,
Sonia,
everyone.
welcome. Did you see the Cracker Barrel news?
I didn't until you told me about it, but then I went to go look it up because I was like, wow, they just went like scorched earth. We're throwing everything away, revamping it, just resetting, which makes sense because of the huge backlash that they got.
Yeah, well, they dumped their design firm that's behind that disastrous logo change.
So not
Um,
just the logo change, they were also involved in like the location design. So it was a twofer that they were doing. What I hadn't known was that they had only rolled it out to 4 of their locations
uh-huh.
out of the 660. So at least now they have enough time to, kind of change it back, without having to spend as much money as they would have done if they had, spread it to more locations. So good on them to kind of, realize and like recognize that it wasn't going to work,
Yeah.
um, and stopping the process and just reverting back. One other thing I wanted to point out was that it's a San Francisco based design firm,
Mhm.
which I guess kind of comes across and probably became part of the whole like culture war itself and like
Mhm.
what pushed it in that direction. So we'll see. I do like that they reverted back. It
Yeah.
really shows that they listen to their customers, and I hope that this means that they'll be, you know, getting their numbers back up.
Yeah. I hope so too. I mean, hopefully they learned lessons here.
Well, not just them, right? Other companies that also have like a historical story that like, matches kind of the vibe of their target customer, because
Mhm.
that was what I felt was like really missing from the change. That it seems to have gotten rid of everything and just made it very vanilla,
Yeah.
by getting rid of the old man on the barrel and the stores, like really getting rid of like the kitschiness of like the country store, which was like the whole point of it, I thought.
Yeah.
So yeah, so they also said that there's going to be some leadership changes. Their VP of marketing is out. So I guess he's the one that's getting landed with this decision. Somebody that had been with the company for a really long time is, stepping in as the new VP of marketing. So hopefully that means that they'll be, seeing a lot more changes, and we'll definitely keep y'all up on what's happening. So the other one that I want to talk about was we had talked last week about Williams, the F1 car, that had the whole like campaign with the little girl and the Sparkles the unicorn. So they've just announced that they're going to roll out Sparkles themed merch for kids mostly. Though I see a lot of adults are complaining like, "Hey, we want this as well." But I did want to call out that they are going to set aside a portion of the revenues to the little girl Thea and her family, who like designed the unicorn and had like the moment with Carlos Sainz, the driver. So I thought that was really cool because I mean, she should definitely be getting, some of that money. And I like that they're, really taking this wholesome moment with like one of their fans and like running with it and building a whole like, new like marketing campaign from it.
Yeah. Love it.
Awesome. And then the last one is that Tame Impala had a concert here in LA, under a freeway underpass. So I thought that was really cool because it's like recalling the All American Rejects and like what they were doing like, house parties. And I think they did one at a like gas station as well. So it's like really cool that like rock bands are going back to like the people. It seems very like rock and roll and like punk, punk, where it's like they're just like performing out there in the middle of nowhere sometimes. And like fans are like the image I saw was that someone said, "Oh, we get like a personal like Tim Impala concert, and all we had to pay was the $1.50 for parking."
Oh,
So
that's fun.
yeah,
How
it's like
many so I'm so old. I
yeah,
have no idea who that is.
it's a DJ set that's playing local small venues, which is really showing, I think, for me, just how much more people really want to have these types of moments, especially with like rock bands and DJ sets, so that they can experience it differently. I will say, I mean, like I went to the Oasis concert and that was like one of the best like concert experiences of my life, but I feel like that has kind of changed, right? Like there aren't that many bands that can get that big of a, population to go aside from, obviously Taylor Swift and a lot of like the pop shows that are like hitting right now. And rock just doesn't seem to be very popular right now. So I think it's great that they're kind of, going back to, doing a garage band type, of aesthetic, right? Doing it at parking lots or doing it, at houses and stuff like we had talked about with the All American Rejects. So it's cool that they're going in that direction.
Yeah, that's so fun.
Okay. Cool. So I want to talk about, I feel like all we talk about now these days are Anthropic and ChatGPT and Perplexity. But I really wanted to talk about the pop-up that Anthropic and Claude are having in New York right now because it's been all over my timeline. And I think it's like really hitting again, like the Tame Impala, pop-up concert, where people just want to participate in real life with other people and feel like they're participating in something that's unique and exclusive because this was like people got invited to come to the store. So basically Anthropic transformed an airmail newsstand in the West Village into a zero slop zone pop-up. So it's like really showing that they
What does that
know.
mean? What is a zero slop pop-up?
Yeah, so it's a it was like a coffee house and they had a bunch of like products, like a bag. They had a hat that said it says thinking on it. So they were saying, oh, it's like a
Oh.
thinking cap. It has like a vintage aesthetic and they had a very like analog focus of books, pen and paper. And like those are the items that they're, selling or like giving away. It's just really trying to like put up like the humanity behind it. And that's been one of the things that like Anthropic and like Claude has been like, trying to like push a little bit more is that like, vintage aesthetic, slow living movement type stuff. They know that like Gen Z has been reporting that they like are overwhelmed with like screen time. So they're really trying to like make it more about how you do things in person or meeting other people. So it's like come to a real place, meet other people, have a cup of coffee, get the pen and paper, and then like, you have that like moment where you're outside of just like being online all the time. They're trying to market their product like in an anti-digital way and, creating that artificial scarcity by just having the one pop-up, knowing that it's like only going to be there a limited amount of time. And then making it be more vintage versus like, techie and like, um, what is that, like innovation forward or something.
Hmm. It's really hard for me to wrap my head around this because, reading about it, I saw like hundreds of people were lined up around the block,
Hmm.
lining up to get their coffee or their hat. The hat looks cute.
Hmm.
I think what's hard for me to wrap my head around is like, so what? So they went there and then they had coffee and then they left and then yay Claude? Like I wonder like what did they do? What was so impactful about it? I mean, it looks like it was really well received. There were obviously several hundred people who lined up to check it out,
Hmm. Hmm.
which is pretty cool. I mean, that
Yeah.
doesn't always
So
happen at pop-ups.
right. By some measure, it says it was over 700 people that showed up
Mhm.
to, get their thinking cups and the coffee. And then, a lot of those people were just posting online about it. It's funny because part of this is like, I want to shout it out because it was successful as a marketing play where it's like, it got all those people to like show up. It got, people to talk about it, to post about it online. It went semi-viral in like, tech circles. But then you bring up a very good point. What does that matter, right? Does that mean that these folks are going to be using Claude more than they are going to be doing OpenAI and ChatGPT? I don't know, right? Because, like we were talking about last week, OpenAI has like 70% of the market. Which leaves a very small pie for Perplexity and for Anthropic to, divide the rest. So maybe that's, and I think we talked about that last week as well, where it's like if you have, such a small pie and your competitor is just so large, then it's like, who are you actually competing against? And so if this is a play against, Perplexity, then it's just like, yeah, getting your name out there, getting that visibility, getting people to learn about you when they might not otherwise, then like that is a marketing win, right? But yeah, overall, like, what does it mean? It's like, well, they're creating a brand aesthetic around their brand where it's like they want to be known more as like Claude is a thinking partner for you for like when you're working with AI of the options that you have. Which AI do you want to use? Do you want to use one that like, makes you feel as if, like, it's okay for you to be both, very tech forward with using AI, but then also use it more as like a thinking partner and not to do the work for you. That's a constant thing that like I think about, so to be the company that's like making that be, that type of consumer is like who they want to go after, is kind of just narrowing in and like focusing on those types of consumers. Whether it's going to be successful in terms of like how do they expand outward from there, we'll see. But the fact that this is something that people are talking about is successful in a way.
Yeah, I think it's nice. It looks like fun. I would be curious if they plan to expand to other markets. But it looks like it's just in New York for now. Like it was a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
I'd be curious if it would come out to San Francisco at some point, right? Because that's where um, you know, the tech world lives.
Mhm,
So it is interesting that they chose New York instead of, San Francisco. Though to be fair, I do feel
yeah.
like New York has more of a people are willing to stand in line for like a bagel or a cronut type of,
Mhm.
like culture as opposed to, San Francisco. Though I guess San Francisco has their lines too, right? Like Tartine and the Mission and like, Buy Right ice cream, so yeah, the fact that people are willing to wait in line is proof positive, right? That they're like what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, New York is a creative hub, right?
Hmm.
So it makes sense if Anthropic is trying to position itself as something that can help you be better creatively, that could be your partner. It makes sense that they would want to increase awareness in a market that isn't known for being the top tech hub. It's obviously
Hmm.
not to say that New York doesn't have tech. It's not what I'm saying.
No,
But
no.
just that it makes sense that they would choose kind of the non tech forward kind of city to launch this
Hmm.
activation.
Yeah, that's true. Especially because it has, like you were saying, like the arts, right? Because I was thinking, I was like, well, if they really want to do the arts, you'd come to LA. But then I think that opens up a whole different can of worms about like what AI is doing to like the movie industry, right?
Yeah. Right.
Which like they don't want to have that conversation either. Yeah, it's a very like fine line to kind of like thread for all these. So that's why I think it's like that all this marketing is happening right now with, like, OpenAI, with Anthropic and Claude, with Perplexity.
All right.
Okay,
We would be
cool.
remiss in not talking about Taylor Swift today,
Yeah,
friends. The new album has broken Spotify records. I think Taylor Swift is the first artist, right, to have like the number one single and album in the
did
first
it
week.
break the Adele record?
What was the Adele record?
I think it was, like, selling 3.5 million.
Well, sold over 2.7 million copies on its first day, making it the second largest sales week in modern music history, only behind Adele's 25.
Yeah, that's the Adele
Yep, there
record.
it is.
She didn't make
All
it.
right. Not quite, but historic, right?
Yeah,
Exciting.
no, no, for sure.
But what I want to talk about is her potential effect on the wedding industry. A couple things that I find interesting here. Maybe the first one, I mean, less obvious, is I think it's really interesting. I think it's really smart that some wedding companies like The Knot, the wedding marketplace, and Zola, the wedding site, right, wedding
Mhm.
registry site,
Yeah, yeah.
that they're using this opportunity to do some research on the wedding industry, and at least part of that research as it relates to Taylor Swift. So, The Knot forecasted that Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce will probably bring in an estimated 1.8 billion bump in US wedding spend over the next 2 years.
That's
And
wild.
wild, right? And then Zola, right, the other wedding website, they surveyed over 700 vendors, and over half of them say that they are currently offering or will probably offer a Taylor Swift inspired service or package. So that's interesting. So we're think
Interesting. Well, yeah, what does
yeah.
that mean?
Well, like I think we're gonna see a lot more vendors maybe offer stuff like garden wedding stuff, kind of whimsical woods fairy kind of aesthetic. That's gonna be a part of it. I think there are gonna be a lot
Like,
of
kind of based off of their like,
their
proposal with, like, the
engagement
arch and
photo.
stuff, yeah, mhm.
Yeah, I think we'll see a lot of that. I think we'll see a
Mm,
lot of people who are probably going to try to copy her engagement ring,
yeah,
or at least,
definitely that.
doing some kind of similar thing there.
Yeah, yeah.
And some of
I'm
this is
sure when the
already
wedding dress comes out, there's gonna be
right.
huge
We're gonna see that.
you know? Yeah,
Right,
yeah.
I'm
Because
sure
I mean,
people
it
will
kind of
have
reminds me of, the whole Kate Middleton, Prince William effect, right? Where
mhm,
it's like, afterwards, it kind of changed the whole aesthetic, like, all of a sudden, wedding dresses were more, I don't wanna say, like, conservative, but, she had the whole, like, lace gown with, like, the
mhm,
long sleeves and stuff, and, like, prior to that, a lot of the
mhm,
wedding dresses had been, like, far more revealing, the Kim
mhm,
Kardashian type aesthetic. I mean, I think they still talk about the bump whenever she wears some sort of, like, outfit, which obviously we saw with, like, the dress that she had worn for the engagement, right? Like, get sold
mhm.
out almost immediately. It's definitely gonna be a huge
Yeah,
thing.
to that point though, so Kate Middleton and Prince William, they got engaged in 2010.
Mhm.
I swear, like, for the next 5 years, everyone's engagement ring was
Yeah, the
the
sapphire.
diamond with, like, the little diamonds around it, the halo cut.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Right,
yeah.
everyone had that.
Yeah.
I think hers was a sapphire with the
Yeah, it's a
diamonds
sapphire
around
with the
it.
blue. Yeah,
But,
because it was
like
Princess
yeah.
Diana's old ring.
Yeah, so we're totally gonna see that with this,
Mhm.
and I'm not just saying that, we're seeing some of this already start to happen. So, the Ralph Lauren dress that Taylor Swift wore in those engagement photos, that's already sold out. And then,
Yeah.
searches for garden surged 70% on the Knots marketplace compared to the week prior to the engagement.
That's wild.
Yeah, so we're seeing the beginnings of this already. I think it's interesting. We'll see. I think if you are a wedding vendor or party vendor, party planner, this is an opportunity to develop some Swift inspired packages.
Yeah, that's interesting. I wonder if people, I mean, and this would be semi crazy maybe, just putting it out there, like, would delay their wedding to basically find out what her actual wedding's gonna be like, to then be able to recreate that a little bit more, or if they're just gonna, keep going with, like, I would say that I'm sure, like, the folks that already have the date set, are just trying to, like, incorporate, things here and there,
Mhm.
but for the ones that haven't quite set the date, I mean, she'd probably get married in the next 2 years, right? Like, I don't see them
Probably.
putting them off, that long,
Yeah.
and then, like, waiting to see, what her whole, like, wedding looks like, right?
Yeah,
But then I
for
also
sure.
wonder, like, how much they're gonna share, right? Because like,
Well,
her
oh,
bestie just got married, right, Selena
right,
Gomez,
right.
and they're having there's the images she kind of shared, but there isn't, like, more. There wasn't, like, the people, like, cover that, like, took you
Mhm.
behind the scenes to, like, show you more of, like, the details of, or not yet anyway.
Or not yet.
Maybe.
Yeah, we'll
Yeah,
say not
maybe that'll
yet.
come out.
No,
Anyway.
did you see Taylor Swift on Graham Norton the other day?
I
She
saw some of the video footage on Twitter, but I didn't, like, see the whole thing.
she talked about they talked about the wedding or the wedding planning process sort of,
Mm,
and she talked about how, like, it's so stressful when you're planning a wedding, and if you have to keep your list small and you
yeah.
have all these people on the bubble and you don't know if you're gonna invite them. She's like, "I'm not doing that. Everyone's invited. Anyone I've ever talked
Mm.
to is invited."
Oh, yeah, I saw that part.
Yeah, so that's like a first thing, right? She's gonna have a
Mhm.
big wedding. I think this is the first time in the US that we're gonna have a royal wedding.
Yeah, right?
Right?
Like,
So there's
lots of
that.
people. Mhm.
Yeah, so whatever they do there, surely that's gonna be a big deal.
Mhm.
Um, so there's that, and then there's also I also just wanna say, by the way,
Mhm.
it seems like there are, I'll just say, a non-significant number of fans who are surprised by the upbeat dancey vibes of the Life of a Showgirl album, which I think is interesting because I felt like she delivered exactly what she said she was going to when she was on the New Heights
Mm.
podcast.
Mhm.
So now as I'm saying this out loud, I'm like, you guys, she just made her wedding soundtrack. She's gonna be playing all these songs
No
on the night of
way.
her wedding reception.
You can't have
Not
your
all of
own
them,
songs at
most of
your
them.
wedding.
Why wouldn't she? She's Taylor Swift.
I mean, I guess.
I mean, like, I wouldn't do that because I don't make music, but if I did, I probably would.
I don't know, 'cause wouldn't you just wanna sit back and enjoy your wedding?
Well, she could just play it, she doesn't have to sing it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
Yeah, maybe.
yeah.
I don't know though. Can you really see her playing wood?
I think she
At the
would. It's
wedding.
a pretty upbeat song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I expected it to be honestly though, I expected it to be more upbeat because I know, like Max Martin, like I know his like previous work with like Britney Spears and NSYNC and stuff. So I was expecting a little bit more of that. But then I went back, or I didn't go back, but someone had reposted the video of her saying like it's not about being on stage. It's not that showgirl aspect to it. It's the life, so the behind. And I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I guess
Yeah,
that's more mellow, still upbeat
yeah.
because she's happy, she's in her happy phase. But not as much as I was thinking it was gonna be like maybe not like full on Dua Lipa who's like doing like, disco jams. But yeah, I guess I just touched it a little bit more
Yeah,
upbeat because of
uh,
Max Martin.
not all the songs, but, like, probably half of them are solid, like, dance songs.
Mm.
Yeah,
Cool.
cool. Alright, shall we talk
Oh.
about K-pop Demon Hunters now?
Mhm.
They're gonna have another big moment. It's October, friends. I just wanted to call out that they're doing a lot, and one thing
Mhm,
over this past weekend was the singing voices behind Huntrix. So EJ, Audrey, and Ray, they did a cameo in SNL this weekend.
mhm.
That was really fun.
Yeah. So Bad Bunny brought them out. So clearly he's a huge, a huge fan. So people are like wondering if they're going to come out for the Super Bowl because that would be really cool. You kind of have like the mix of like cultures, of like music that's obviously very popular in the states. You have Bad Bunny and K-pop Huntrix, and the song Golden has been on the charts for like a while. They just recharted after this, performance. And I think like one of those things is the fact that it's October and we're going to see a lot of, people dress up like the characters in the show. I mean, Amanda, are you going to share that you're
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna be Rumi. I have my jacket ready, so I'm gonna be Rumi in How It's Done. So the yellow jacket and the black shorts, doing that.
Are you going to do the hair?
I am gonna do the hair. I'm
So
gonna
are you
make my
doing like a
own.
wig or you're going
Yeah, I'm
to
gonna make my
Okay.
wig.
Okay.
I will make the braid and then I will weave my hair into it. I'm very excited. I'm very excited because as a Filipino American girl, like anytime I had a Halloween costume growing up, I usually just chose an animal, like I was a rabbit or a cat or something. But I never even considered trying to be like Dorothy from The Wizard of Oz or Little Mermaid because I always knew even as a 6-year-old that they would be like, "Oh, so you're Asian Dorothy?" Like, that doesn't make sense. So, I'm excited, like, the big reason that I am dressing up is, like, to honor the child in me who is like, "Oh my gosh, you're finally the default look. Like, you're not Asian Rumi, you're just Rumi. Yes, I'm not Korean, that's not the point. It's think big picture, guys." So, I'm pumped. It's gonna be a fun Halloween.
That's funny. Are you gonna dress up your kid, or is Ian, your husband, gonna dress up along with you?
Yeah,
You
my
could be a
husband is
Sasha
gonna
boy, you know?
so my husband is gonna be Zoe.
Oh my god, how funny.
He got the tropical bomber jacket and a yellow bucket hat. That's what Zoe wears
Oh,
when we
yeah.
meet the Saja boys.
Yeah.
And then my my older son wanted to be Genu because he heard about this. He was like, "I wanna be Genu." And
Is
then the
that the
baby
cat?
is gonna be baby Saja.
Oh, that's so funny.
My older son is gonna be Genu.
Genu, sorry.
Yeah.
Which character is that?
The main Saja boy character.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to see people dressed as like the big cat.
Yeah, that'll be
That would
fun.
just be a lot of fun. Um That should be yeah, that'll be a lot of fun, trick or treating and stuff wearing and then, so many people are gonna know, like, the reference, so
Exactly,
that's gonna be,
they're
like,
not gonna
really
be
cool.
like, "Oh, you're the Asian version of that thing."
Mhm.
They will just know in their hearts. I'm so excited.
Yeah, that'll be very cool. Well, I'm excited for y'all,
Yeah,
to do that. Yeah, we haven't really decided. I think Sophia wants to be a, witch, and then we got a little bat costume for Archie, so I might do, like, a black cat, and then Nathan might be, like, a ghost or something, like, more
cute.
traditional,
Classic
Halloween.
Halloween.
Yeah,
I love
exactly.
it. That's the cutest thing ever.
Yeah. Um,
Alright. So, actually, there's a bunch of stuff I think that's interesting about the way they're marketing K-pop Demon Hunters right now, right? So,
mhm.
we know that EJ, Audrey, and Ray were on SNL this past weekend where they sang a couple short snippets of Golden. The thing I thought was super interesting was so they sang, on SNL, they sang the part that's like, "We're going up, 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 it's our moment, together we're glowing, gonna be golden."
Mhm.
The part that the really high note is in I'm done hiding, now I'm shining like I'm born to be. The born to
Mhm.
be is really high. She
Mhm.
didn't sing that note in SNL, but, they're going to be on The Tonight Show, Jimmy Fallon this
Mhm.
week, and, like, they've been like, the Tonight Show has been marketing this as, like, this is the first time they are gonna sing this song live. So I just
Huh.
think it's really smart that they
Yeah.
withheld from that note
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
at
yeah.
SNL to be like, "Nope, we're doing that on Fallon." So smart.
Yeah, oh, that's clever. And it's kind of like dropping little, hints beforehand, and it's like,
Yeah,
"Oh,
yeah,
you
totally,
couldn't
getting
watch
people
that
excited.
performance because we didn't do it in full
Mhm.
until we do the Fallon one, and then that's the one that you should watch to get, like, the full flavor of us doing a live concert."
Yeah, that is great NBC marketing right there.
Mhm.
'Cause
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The Tonight Show is even filmed in the same building
That's right,
as
yeah.
SNL. Yeah, so the girls were already in town, probably rehearsing a lot.
Mhm.
I'm so
When
excited
are
to watch
they
them.
gonna be on Fallon?
I believe it's Tuesday this
Oh,
week.
okay.
Yeah.
Um, and did they wear the outfits?
I don't think
Or,
so,
like,
I
were
think
they
they were just
wearing
wearing
normal?
something else.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
that's
that's
one thing
good.
where it's like, obviously, they're not their characters, they're just, like, the voices behind it, but I wonder, like, how
Yeah.
much of it is, like, their
I
you
I
know?
wonder how much they'll lean into it because they
Right.
do kind of look like the characters.
Mhm.
I think especially Audrey, she does look like Mira, and she has, like, a similar vibe as
Mhm.
Mira. No, she could also just be hamming it up, like, because of the movie,
Yeah,
but
yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
definitely.
And then the other thing that they are doing is last week on Fortnite, they launched some K-pop Demon Hunters or Huntrix skins, right? So now you can be Rumi, Mira, or Zoe. You can get accessories like their weapons or their ramyeon, like the instant noodles,
Mm,
which
sure,
is
yeah.
fun. There's also a demon mode that you can play now on on Fortnite. So
Interesting.
killing all the demons, like that's so great for Halloween.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
it makes sense in the gameplay, obviously.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's clever that they've been able to take these moments and, like, run
Mhm.
with it, right? Because the movie came out in June, and, like, we're still talking about it now, and they're using that to their advantage to then be like, "Hey, October should be a very big month for us because, like, Halloween, the demons and all that." And so now they're getting, like, more marketing. So it really seems as if it's, like, snowballing, but then it's also a lot of, like, very good luck, right? Because, they've been able to, like, jump in now that it has gotten more popular in order to kind of grow it even more as they're seeing that more of their fans, really love the movie. The fact that so many people have seen it multiple times, it's like slow rolling how much people are like finding out about it, right? Because it's like it came out in June. And then when you and I talked about it was in September when like it had really gotten like more popular. And then you had talked about how they were doing the sing-along concerts, like, right after school started, so it gave people a reason to go to the movies after they had talked to their friends about seeing it, right? So then they did that, and then now they have, like, October, which is jumping in on Halloween and, like, the whole demon mode thing. They're, obviously doing these collabs with, like, Fortnite. They're finally performing, more as they've, like, raised their profile. So it's like, really cool to see them glomming onto this like interests of people and like riding the wave of success. So like, congrats to them. And obviously like the creator who like probably didn't think it would get to this level.
Mhm.
And I'm sure she's just like reveling in like the fact that, so many people like not only enjoy it, but are like full on just like, coming out for the sing-alongs and like wanting that to like be a thing that people participate in and, dressing up as like the characters and stuff. Like it's cool that they're able to do that.
Totally, totally. It just the timing has been amazing. I mean, I
Mhm.
can't imagine they planned it this well because they didn't think the movie was gonna be this successful. So
Yeah, right,
I don't
exactly.
imagine they chose June because they knew it would crush for Halloween.
Yeah,
But good
exactly.
for them for making it work.
Yeah, I think that that was like, super cool. One of the other things I wanted to bring up that this kind of reminds me of is the last week Merriam-Webster put out the ad about like our new like AI like language model. It was like one of those where it's like you're like the dictionary is like doing like a large language model and like what is it? And then at the end you see it's like the dictionary, like the book itself. They took, like, photos of it. And I think it was like one of those things where it's like really capitalizing on the moment of like what people are talking about, because the whole like AI slop thing, is happening. And it was like one of those things that like I kind of saw just like grow because people were like, oh my God, this is actually a very brilliant way to like market the dictionary. It's like really pushing against like the whole AI like slop thing, and saying like this is like the original like large language model. It's like the dictionary where you have to like learn the words and like learn different vocabulary and stuff. So I thought that it was like one of those things where the fact that you're able to jump on moments because you're like listening to like what people are talking about, is like such a good way to like create new marketing plans and to like be able to like jump fast and like move where like the people are headed and like what they're talking about, because like there's so many things that like people are talking about that are in like the culture, that like people can jump on. You just have to like be willing to kind of take that risk and like talk about it. And obviously not everything like works works well, but it shows that like the teams that are willing to take that on and be a little risky, and like are able to speak to like a moment. Or I think with like K-pop Demon Hunters, the K-pop has been like growing, and there was still like that belief. I mean, I still think about how Sony kind of sold off the full IP to like Netflix. So they're like, oh, they didn't believe in the project enough, right? And now Netflix has full on like, taken it and is, marketing the shit out of it. And like look how much money they're like now making because like they're like, putting more behind it, right? And I think it just goes to show how like um all these like smaller fandoms. I mean, it's not even small, right? Like K-pop is gigantic, right? Um that like paying attention to these different fandoms can be very profitable, as long as you like bring in the people that really love those things to like create something in that like realm, right? With K-pop Demon Hunters having this, uh, um the like creator who like loves K-pop, create this as like a something, like out of love, right? And then the like Merriam-Webster like folks who are like believe that like the dictionary and like words and all that like right now matters and like should matters. Like how are you creating these like campaigns around that by letting the people that like really love the things put that out into the world?
Yeah, I love it. All right, should we roll into some key takeaways?
Yeah. So takeaway for Anthropic, I think really hitting on the having those like moments. People want to participate in real life things. Whether this is going to be successful or not, I don't think is like the point right now. I think the fact that they, were able to create this pop-up and then have over 700 people show up to get like their thinking caps, is doing enough to raise their brand awareness and for like people to find out about the company, when they're competing against like such a huge giant like OpenAI. So I think it's like one of those things that like if you're a smaller company that's competing against the Goliath, like what moments are you kind of creating to like get people to participate and like learn more about you. And we've talked about this before, right? Like it's not necessarily like the pop-up itself, but it's the stories that you get from it afterwards of like people talking about it and sharing online about like their experience to get like the hats and get the coffee and like show up to like a nice aesthetically pleasing location to like look at in like the West Village. And I think it was smart for them to do it in New York, where it's like you have both the cross section between arts and media and then tech as well, because I don't think it would have played as well in like San Francisco.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, it'll be interesting for them to see if this leads to any kind of business impact,
Hmm.
because the aesthetic that they chose, the giveaways or products to sell that they chose in the market, New York, that they
Hmm.
chose, obviously that was all quite intentional. So I would
Hmm.
be curious to see like how well that resonated with that
Yeah.
market, and even just to see if they might consider expanding the pop up to other markets.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll see. Though actually this does remind me, I was just at Century City this past weekend and Taylor Swift has a like immersive experience pop-up in the middle of the mall. Um where people could like put on the bows and like dress up as if they were gonna be in like one of the music videos. So like immersive experiences are like more and more of a thing. Because you want people to be able to participate along with, what you're building. So I think that that's like, something that more companies should consider as they're, trying to grow is like, how do we have, immersive experiences that people could, come out to?
Yeah. All right. And then for Taylor Swift and the wedding industry, well, if you work in the event industry, I would even just say more broadly, if you work in the event industry, I would be thinking about what are the trends that you could expound on. If there's anything Taylor Swift related, like think about one, does it make sense for you to consider something here, like within that theme? What could you do that's unique to your business, right? And then maybe this is just because I'm a B2B marketer.
Hmm.
The fact that the Knot and Zola are working on some research that is now getting cited in the press
Hmm.
because of Taylor Swift, I just think that is really brilliant. So
Hmm.
always be thinking about what kinds of brand opportunities can you can work on to drive awareness to your brand.
Yeah, no, it's funny because it's like when you first brought this up, I was like, okay, what does that have to do like with anything? And then now that you talked about it, it's like, oh yeah, there is going to be like more attention paid to like weddings and like people are always looking for new design aesthetics and inspirations, right? I mean, that's why Pinterest is still, super popular is because a lot of that, goes on there. And obviously the wedding industry as a whole is like a whole industry that it's
Mhm.
like you're always looking to see like what the new thing is and like what the trends are going to be. So definitely like thinking about that for like your own business of like how you can kind of welcome in, Swifties as like a brand. I like that it isn't so just about like the life of a showgirl, right? But I like the whole um romantic like aesthetic of like the gardens and like the flowers and like what sort of inspiration is
Mhm.
there for like weddings and like
Yeah.
kind of just thinking about that out now that she did choose more of an antique style like ring. It would make sense that her dress and, like, all the rest of, like, the wedding, would be inspired by that as well. So I could see that kind of, being a thing that, the people that are in, like, in the industry start moving things in that direction, you know?
If you could take the general theme of that and run with it and make it a
Mhm.
really beautiful color scheme for a wedding, like, you
Yeah.
could do, like, a lot of greenery, like,
Mhm.
if it's a woods wedding,
Mhm.
you could just have a lot of wreaths that are green
Mhm.
with some orange accents, like, I
Yeah.
think it could work really well.
Yeah, 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 no, cool.
Cool.
And then for, K-pop Demon Hunters, I think the biggest thing there, is that you never know when you're gonna become popular, you know? Um, and you kinda just have to, like, ride the wave and, like, knowing that so many people, like, love what you created, but then are discovering it is, like, having those modes for them to actually continue discovering it without passing judgment that, like, "Oh, you haven't heard about us yet." I feel like that's one thing that I have felt with, like, K-pop Demon Hunters, that it's been very welcoming of newer people that maybe didn't know too much about, like, K-pop beforehand. You're just, like, making it very accessible for them to, like, see the movie on Netflix and then do the sing along, in the movie theaters. And then now it's like reached a level where it was on SNL and now it's going to be on Jimmy Fallon, right? So it's like I feel like they've really taken advantage of like the more popularity that they've gained, the more that they're putting themselves in places where more people can find out about it, and have been very welcoming to the people that might not have known about them before.
Yeah, yeah, I do really love how this approach in expanding to these new areas, like Fortnite, for instance,
Yeah.
it just gives people more and more new opportunities to learn about them and to
Mhm.
hop on the Huntrix train, so to speak.
Yeah. Yeah, 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 for sure.
All right. Well, I think that wraps us up for this week. Thank you, friends, for listening. If you would be so kind, please
Yeah.
consider leaving us a 5-star review for Meme Team because indie podcasts like ours really helps us out.
Yeah, definitely. And then, we always enjoy reading what you guys think about what we're talking about and everything. So thanks. And then make sure to follow us at Meme Team Pod on YouTube and then at Meme Team Podcast on Spotify and on TikTok.
Cool. See you next week.
Awesome. See ya.